everyone, and welcome to today's video where we are going to be continuing talking about geometry. Specifically today we're talking about rotations. Now in previous grades you probably are familiar with the term flip, but as we get older and as math becomes a little bit more advanced, we start to get into different terminology, so you are going to be hearing the term reflection more than anything else. There are a couple of other things that you are going to hear that you may or may not know about, and as we develop our math vocabulary, one of the things that you're going to hear is something called a mirror line, and a mirror line is where that shape is going to be reflecting over. The other piece of terminology that you're going to hear is something today called prime. And prime pretty much shows us where the shape has reflected to. Okay, now that'll make a little bit more sense once I do a little bit of reflection. So we'll get into this. Before we start, one of the things that I always like to do is tell you that if there is something that doesn't make sense, by all means, please pause, rewatch the video to see if it will make sense after a second viewing. Or you can always drop a comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so here we are. We have a shape A, B, and C. It is a triangle and we are going to be reflecting this over a particular line. Now, what we've been doing is we've been trying to show grade 7 and 8 students that points of origin can change. I know that many of you are probably familiar with reflecting over top of the y-axis or over top of the x-axis, and that is great, but that is very foundational. What we need to have an understanding of is that that line can move. And if you've seen previous videos like our video on rotations, which we'll throw a card in the top right hand corner, there is the visual that that line or dot can be anywhere on this Cartesian plane. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be reflecting today horizontally over top of a vertical line, and then I'm going to show you what do you do if you happen to have a diagonal line. Okay, so let's do that. Let's switch over to pink. Let's make ourselves a vertical line that is not on the y-axis. So it's not this line right here. We're going to simply move this over to maybe 2 here. That probably looks good. So we'll draw a line, and what this is going to show us is that our shape is going to flip over this line right here. Okay? So reflecting shapes is actually only 3 steps. Step 1, what we're going to do is measure the distance from our points of origin, our vertices or our chosen vertex, to the mirror line, not to this line or this line, not to the y-axis or the x-axis. We want to know where that mirror line is located, and that is going to tell us what that shape is going to do on the other side. So let's do that. Step number 1, we're going to take a look at B first. We're going to move B 1 jump, 2 jump, 3 jump. And now that we know that it is 3 jumps away, here's 1 jump, here's 2 jumps, and here's 3 jumps. We are going to, step 2, measure the same distance, same direction from the mirror line. So we're going to make 1 jump, a 2 jump, and 3 jumps, and B is going to reflect to there. Now you might look at that and say, well, wait a second. What's this little apostrophe thing that you just did there? We'll talk about that in 1 sec. Let's do the same thing with A and C. So A here is at -2. We're going to go over 1, over 2, over 3, over 4. That was step number 1. Step number 2 is measure 4 away from the mirror line. Step number 3, put the dot. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we are going to be here. And we're going to write what our vertex is so we don't forget. And then we're going to do the same with C. We're here at -4. Well, 4 will get me back to 0, plus another 2 is 6. So let's measure 6 from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now that we have that, we're simply going to connect our dots. And what you can see here is we have a rotation that has happened from here, flipping over top of this line to here. Now, let's get back to these little apostrophes. This is one of those math vocabulary terminology things that I mentioned off the hop. This little guy right here means prime. And what it means is it's a way to visually represent that this is our transformed shape, whether it is dilated, whether it is translated, whether it is rotated, or whether it is reflected. In this case, what we have here is we have a shape that is the original A, B, and C, and it has been reflected to A prime, B prime, and C prime. It's just a way for us to know what the original shape was and in what direction it was that we rotated. Okay, so that will work if we are dealing with straight up and down or straight left to right, x-axis, y-axis reflections. But sometimes math gets a little more difficult. Sometimes it becomes a little bit more advanced. And in this case, what we're going to do here is show you what happens when we're dealing with a diagonal line. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a line. I'm going to make this line go straight through our origin. So we're going to go like this, which is going to be a brand new reflection. This brand new mirror line, instead of our shape going this way now, our shape is reflecting in that direction. Now this becomes a little bit more tricky because what we have here is we have B working over and down, but if we went over and down here, we just don't get the same sort of flip. It doesn't sort of make sense. So what we want to do in this case is we want to measure diagonal lines. 90 degree or rather 180 degree specific lines. So what you'll do is grab a protractor and create 90 degree lines using your protractor to the mirror line. Okay? So what we've got here is, if I was to make this 90 degrees, so 90 degrees, I'm just going to mark some 90s because my protractor is a little bit big here, so that's a 90. I think that will probably give me a 90 here. What I'm going to do is go through here, but I'm going to carry on my shape. I'm going to carry on this line, rather, all the way out here, make a 180 degree line. I'm going to do the same with B. B is going to be, now that's perpendicular, so I should be able to just kind of eyeball that one. You'll probably want precision. It's a little tougher to do with this protractor. And then that's perpendicular, so maybe what I can do is just move that over here and draw my 180 degree line that way. And now that I have this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to count the diagonal spaces. So this becomes one space to the mirror line. I'm going to go one space out from the mirror line. It's kind of in between. You don't want to count over one, down one, over. It's just going to be too convoluted. So what you want to do is measure the space, the diagonal space that you have through here. I guess another way you could do it would be to measure the distance. So if I took my ruler and measured to here, I'm about 5 centimeters away. So therefore, I'm going to be about 5 centimeters away from here as well. B is going to reflect to there. Okay, now on a grid, it's so much easier because you actually have grid lines that you can count. I can't do that here because I don't have those grid lines. So I'll do the same thing. I'll measure the distance away from the mirror line. You would obviously, again, count the diagonals. Boom, 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 boom. And then just count away from the mirror line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that same diagonal. It will be the same measurement, which is why I'm just going to use this instead. So if I go here, I'm about 10, just over 10. So I'm about there. And then for C, I'll do the exact same thing. I'm at 11. And then what I'm going to do is connect my dots. My dots aren't lining up as well as I would hoped. But essentially, that is what you would do to flip over diagonal. The concept is the same. You're still trying to get the distance to the middle line, and then from the middle line, measure away to where the new space is going to be, or where your new vertex is going to reflect to. So this has been a quick video on how to do reflections. If you have any problems, concerns, questions, please drop a comment down below. I will do my best to get back to them as quickly as I possibly can. If you need to rewatch the video, please do so. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, thanks very much for watching. We're talking reflections today.